Sometimes in life we just suffer. Sometimes it's from being totally withdrawn, or so much stress that we are totally anxious, or so tired that we are totally burnt out. But our current position is not our final destination. No, indeed. There's hope. So whether it's your personal life, your career, your relationship, your business, or your job, we say there's reason to believe again. And we present from Andy's personal development, the breakout room. It's the place for health, happiness, and prosperity. Stay tuned for more.
Hey, and welcome to this edition of the Breakout Room. I am your host and your friend in health, happiness, and prosperity, Andy, and we are glad to be with you yet another time, another day. We give God thanks, and we also give you thanks for your continued commitment and your support to the causes of the Breakout Room. We have an amazing guest today that has an amazing story, an amazing add together, could bring definite inspiration and give you the opportunity to receive information that could lead to transformation. And you know, we are big on that in the breakout room. So, enough talk. How about we tell you about our guest? His name is Drewbie Wilson, and he's a weight loss warrior, a brand builder, a best selling author from scribbles to publish pages. He says, I'm Drewbie Wilson, but you might as well call me the living proof that impossible is just a word. I'm the guy who turned life's challenges into a launchpad for success. And now he says he's on a mission to ignite the fire in others, maybe even those who are listening or viewing this podcast now. So, without further ado, let's welcome our guest live into the breakout room, Drewbie Wilson. Welcome.
Andy, thank you so much for having me on. Thank you for the kind words. I was really enjoying, the hype music getting into this thing, and more than anything, I just want to thank the listeners that are here with us today, or if they're watching a replay, whatever. I want to thank them for their time, because it really means a lot that they would be here and spend a little bit of their most valuable asset on this planet with us. So, thank
Yeah.
you, Andy. Thank you to the
Yeah.
listener.
Yeah. That's great. I love that. You are on my wavelength. Our most valuable asset is time, and we need to know how to invest it. I support you at that, Drewbie. Today's episode is entitled Crushing the Day Before It Crushes You with Drewbie Wilson. I want to start on that positive note. Tell us what you mean by that. When you say those words, what do you want people to think? What do you want to come to their mind when you say crushing the day before it crushes you?
Yeah, Andy, you know what? It's a mantra I've really had to envelop in my own life, because as you'll probably hear if you listen to this episode long enough, I've had a bit of a storied upbringing, much like all of us. And so what I realized though is that as I got older, real we're all instant gratification. I want it now. I want it now. I want it now. And so typically what we do as humans, the moment we wake up, we go in search of like dopamine or things that we want. We want that fresh hit of the thing. Like, so normally we pick up our phone and we go right to social media, we turn on the news, right? And unfortunately, a lot of times the way the world is going now, and I'm not going to get too off into the weeds with it, but it's not always a positive message that you see when you turn on the news or you open social media, unless you've catered specifically to the algorithm for that. So it's really easy to wake up and just get into a bad mood and just have the whole day come crumbling down on you. And then all of a sudden, every single thing that you do, it just seems like the whole world is against you and everything's just trying to take you out. And freaking the hook on your pants got caught on the door when you're walking through, or you dropped your bottle of water and it spilled everywhere. Like, there's all these things that happen that can just immediately put you in a funk. And that was happening to me a lot. I was noticing every day when I woke up, I was just frustrated. I wasn't happy. And it didn't make any sense, Andy, because I had a beautiful wife, I had a young son, I had a good job, my bills were paid. Like, for all intents and purposes, I should have been happy. And I couldn't figure out why. And what I realized is that I was not being intentional with my time. And I was letting everything else around me, the world, the universe, like whatever excuse I wanted to give it at the time, I was letting those things dictate the results of my day. I was letting the day just absolutely crush me.
Yeah.
And when I made that shift and I started thinking, I got into personal development, and I really started understanding that it was me who was in my own way and preventing me from getting the things that I want out of life. I developed this mantra of crushing the day, because I knew if I let it get away from me, it was over with. And there was very little things I could do to bring it back. And you may recognize this in yourself, right? If you've ever been like having just a bad day, even if your spouse or your children or someone that you really love is trying to cheer you up, you will push them and reject them because you just want to live in that misery. Right, Andy?
Yeah.
Have you ever felt that way before?
Yeah,
Or
yeah, yeah.
you know what I'm talking about?
I align with you on that. I thoroughly know what you're talking about.
Cool. And so I hope that if I'm not perfect, I still have these experiences from time to time, but it's intentionality and saying, you know what, I'm just going to wake up and be grateful. Like, the first thing I want to do every day is just write down 5 things I'm grateful for. And I had a mentor who taught me that, thankfully, because when I started leaning in on the gratitude first, it's amazing when you start thinking about, well, instead of being mad that I opened my phone first thing and a deal canceled on me, and so now I'm frustrated. No, I'm going to think about, hey, I have this beautiful young lady who's laying next to me, who is blessing my life with love and abundance and all of the things that I sought at one point and didn't have. And I need to be grateful for that, because if I can't be grateful for that, why would the universe bless me with anything else, right? God, the universe, whatever you subscribe to. Why
Yeah.
would
Yeah.
they give you more if you're not grateful for what you have? And when I shifted
Mm,
into that
yeah.
and I started doing that, guess what? I started crushing the day, because no matter what came at me, if it was a negative thing on the news or some kind of deal, you know what? It's okay. I still have all of these amazing things, and I'll get through it. I'll figure it out. And man,
Yeah.
what a shift in my life. And it's been pretty amazing.
Wonderful. Thank you for sharing, Drewbie. It reminds me of a book series that was written by a friend of mine called Phoebe Trotman, a former professional athlete, and she's now an entrepreneur and an author.
Mm,
And she entitled the series Never Quit on a Bad Day.
mm,
And I'm hearing so much of that in your voice, the passion that you bring. It's refreshing, because so many people are bogged down by circumstances around them, conditions around them. You decided that you didn't give two hoots about the conditions, about the circumstances, about whether your cell phone didn't give you the information you're looking for, or your pants got hooked up on the door. None of those things mattered. You wanted to just get out of your way and start your day on your terms. And I think that's a clear message that people need to get from your resonating response to my first question. That's amazing. Thank you for sharing, Drewbie. Now,
yeah,
when you
thank
look
you.
back, yeah, you're welcome. When you look back at your life, what is the one thing that you would want people to remember the most in terms of that defining moment when you made the transition? What was the emotional feeling like for you?
Um, I mean, there was a lot of emotions,
Yeah.
right? Because when you're going on this journey and you're getting ready to take this big leap into this next version of yourself, it's almost like a quantum experience. And again, I don't want to get too off into the weeds. You read up on quantum physics, like, I'm not a
Yeah, yeah,
scientist, right? But I
right.
do know that there are experiences in life when it's like, holy moly, that was crazy how much that just changed over time. It's quantum,
Mm-hmm.
right? You don't
Mm-hmm.
recognize it because it just happens at such a crazy level. And for me, the big shift was just understanding that there are controllables and uncontrollables.
Mm-hmm.
There are things that are going to happen that I just have absolutely no control of whatsoever. The universe and God and whatever is just going to play its cards.
Right.
Okay. But there are some things I can control. I
Ah.
can control my reaction to situations. I can control the food that I put in my mouth. I can control the words that I use when I'm speaking and communicating with others. And kind of what we got into the show, right? Hey, let's make sure we keep this very clean, family friendly, because we want our audience to make sure they get the message. And in
Yes.
some situations, like, you have to shift your language a little bit. But until you start to recognize that, you internalize all of these nasty things, these sayings, and it's stuff you would never say to another human being, right? You would never say that to your spouse or to your child, and yet you let that run through your mind all day long, these negative thoughts. And that's that barrier, that's that wall that people put up and prevent themselves from taking that quantum leap. So when you embrace, like, I'm going to let the uncontrollables do what they do. But the things that I can control, I'm going to be very intentional with them. And while I'll not
Mm-hmm.
be perfect, nobody's perfect, but I can be
Yeah.
better for sure. And if I try to be a little bit better every day, and if I crush a day before it crushes me, what does that look like? Well, over a month, it's cool. Over 6 months, a year, it's great. Over 5 years, it's absolutely insane what has happened in my life. And that's the quantum leap and the experience. It's hard to explain exactly.
Yeah, I get it. So I'm just going to read something here that kind of overstates your position a little bit, but it gets to the heart of the matter. It says, we all face challenges along the way, and if we didn't, the rewards would never feel quite as good.
Mm.
If you're ready to make a change in your life and step into the person you know you were put on this planet to become, awesome. I love that. I encourage you to read this book. Follow along with my journey and see how someone who was considered average as best was able to turn their life around and start creating a legacy. Now, before you respond, I'm going to put up something on the board for the people to see because I want them to see exactly what you are speaking about. I'm going to share it now, and I want you to give us a color commentary on what I just said because I think it is really something for these times. Crushing the Day, a simple guide to success in business and life through service to others. Awesome. I love it. Go ahead, Drewbie.
So, when it comes to my life and my journey, especially as I went into the entrepreneurship side, a lot of it was money focused. It's like, how do I go make more money? Because if I have more money, then I'll have all the things that I want in life, right? The materials, the experiences, all these things that I was seeking that money first. And as I started trying to learn new tactics and tips and tricks and, like, what's the secret sauce to selling more stuff and making more money, I met a gentleman who said, listen, I see you asking questions in the group. I will help you. In exchange, I want you to take what I teach you and teach others with it. And at the time I said, hey man, that sounds cool, but I don't have time for that. Because if I'm teaching everybody else the secrets, like, they're going to take from me and I'm not going to be able to have any success myself. And he was like, okay, cool. You can go and learn everything yourself too, or you can shortcut it and I can give you the knowledge now and you can go and help others. Like, but eventually you're going to have to get out of your own way and you're going to have to think bigger because you literally can't help everyone on the planet. So, like, help some other people and then you're going to see how much more you grow. And it's really interesting, Andy, because at the time I was in a very scarcity mindset related place. I was just
Mm,
focused on, like, get money, get the thing that,
yeah.
like, I know is, like, okay, cool. It's a tool, it's a resource. And funny how when I decided, you know what I'm doing isn't working. It's not getting me the result that I want. So, like, let me just hear what this guy is saying and maybe try something different. And as I look back now, 5, 6 years from that specific conversation, because as I said, my life in quantum leaps in 5 years. I've written this book. I have 3 others that I've written, another one that I'm working on, a 5th book to come out in the next couple months. Like, it's crazy what you can accomplish when you shift out of the get money to, get out of the sales mindset into let me serve. And I didn't realize it because at the time I was not very spiritual or religious. And I have since kind of found more of that in my life, the abundance and blessings. And what's really cool about that is that that's the same conversation the Lord's was having with the people. It's like, hey, I'm going to give you the secret sauce. And if you just share it with everybody else, guess what's going to happen? Your life is going to be amazing. And that's where this whole like mindset of if I just show up and serve and I focus on every time I have a conversation, every time I interact with someone, whenever I meet them, if my focus is to leave them better off than when I found them, it's almost impossible for me to not continue living a better life. And it sounds very woo-woo and out there, but if you don't lean in on it and trust the process can't work. Does that make sense?
Yeah, perfect sense. I love it. Thank you for going deep. Thank you for digging and being so vulnerable and open. We appreciate you, Drewbie Wilson, and we appreciate the content that you're sharing with us today. So here's the thing. As you continue your journey and you just jump into a realm there that I wanted to go into with regards to the writing part, you have another book coming out. How do you do your research for the writings that you do? Because I think it's pretty impressive and it stays at home with so many people that I know who need the content, need the information. They just need to hear somebody say, I did it. This is how I did it. This was my experience. This was my emotions going through the stuff. But at the end of it all, I enjoy the process. You just alluded to that. The process is important every step of the way. And I remember a famous quote by a once famous golfer who's no longer with us, Arnold Palmer. He said, the road to success is always under construction. And what that means is every step of the way you go, there's another stage to develop and to grow. It is not a destination, it's a process. And you have embraced that process. In so doing, does the research that you do have a combination to do with your experience and the things that you would go and do online? Or is it just simply a matter of writing from the heart?
Oh, this is such a great question, Andy. Thank you for giving me the gift of being able to share this because no one else has ever really asked what the process is. And so
Uh-huh.
when I think about writing the books, there's a lot of different reasons for it. And it kind of goes back to I'm a sales professional entrepreneur. First and foremost, like I grew up in the streets hustling and I didn't want to end up dead or in prison. So I knew I had to get my life together and God blessed me with a path to lean in on this and help other people. And so when I wrote my first book, it was, hey, how do I go and share the story of a kid who grew up in the streets, addiction, drugs, all the excuses and reasons that one could have to go and continue to live that kind of lifestyle to where I had shifted and become someone who was making more money than I ever thought possible, had all of the things that I wanted in life, and was at a point where I said, well, what can I do to give back? I can
Hmm.
donate and I can, but like, what do I do to really spread that message and take it out there? And that's when I decided, let me write this book. And as a sales professional and as an entrepreneur and marketer, I had to go through the process of, okay, if I'm going to do something, what's the purpose? Like, why am I doing this? And what am I doing it for? How am I going to do it? And what's going to happen if this whole thing plays out? You kind of have to walk through the process. So I
Yeah.
went, all right, well, I want to tell this story because I want to talk to the person who I was 5 years ago when I started this journey. Someone who wasn't fulfilled, who wasn't feeling good, and who didn't really have you don't know what you don't know. That's
Yeah.
like the easiest way to it. You don't know what you don't know. And what's scary is as you start to know more things, you realize how much more you don't know. It's this crazy perpetual loop.
Yeah.
And so I realized though that for me, I could help people get to where I was. And I had to push through that imposter syndrome of like, well, what have I really done or achieved to really tell a story or to write a book? Like what gives me the right or permission to do this thing? And that's the biggest thing that I think when I'm writing books or when I'm working with clients or when I'm coaching anyone that I meet is a lot of times they just need permission to go do the thing that they know they want to do. Because the majority of the people in their life are so afraid for them that they're
Hmm.
putting up a wall and they won't go do it because they don't want other people to be scared or to judge them or to have some sort of feeling. And I get it, but at the same time, why not? So when I talk to someone, the biggest thing I say is, hey, here's your permission slip to go be the version of yourself you know you're capable of being. And that's what my books are all about. It's all about, hey, how can I give someone that permission slip to go be the greatest version of themselves in the season that they're in right now with the knowledge that I've been blessed with along the way?
Yeah. Yeah. Wonderful. Wonderful. Thank you for sharing. And we appreciate that. That was deep. And I felt the passion again in your voice. When you meet with people and you have conversations and you speak about being able to share in such a manner that you actually contribute something to their lives, it goes back to the idea of service, service in conversation, service in life. Are there any challenges that you face daily with the mindset of people out there in terms of, let's say, for example, the clients that you deal with? Is there some level of consistency with mental and emotional barriers that you have to deal with first before you can get them to understand the process?
Oh, I'm gonna get into some feels here, Andy, because I'm gonna share a formula if you're open to it, and I'm
Mm-hmm.
gonna give away like people pay me thousands of dollars for this one specific coaching session, and if you're open to it, I'll share it with your audience for free. Are you okay with that?
Let's go.
All right, I'm gonna do this as a courtesy. So, like, if you're a client of mine and you've paid me for this, I apologize, but I want to give this to the world right now.
I hear
Um,
you.
the biggest thing that you have to do is you have to get people to know their own worth. And that's kind of a weird taboo conversation because it's kind of around money. And at the same time, like I said at the start of this, time is your most valuable asset. It is the one thing that you cannot buy more of. You cannot win in a poker tournament, and you don't get a box full of it on Christmas morning, right? It's just not how it works. And the what we realize though is that money is a tool, is a resource, and we all know how to get more of that. We know how to get more money. Whether we go swing a hammer, we do a job, we close a sale, we go ask for a loan. We all know how to get money. We know how to be resourceful. And that's what people forget. So the thing that I start to ask is like, okay, well, what is your time worth? Because the time is the real thing we can't get more of at this point. So what is your time
Mm.
worth? And a lot of times people they don't have an answer for me, or it's kind of like, well, my job pays me $10 an hour or $12 an hour or whatever that number is, right? It's arbitrary. So the first thing is, what is that number? Because you
Mm.
need to know, like, what are you currently exchanging your time for from a monetary value? And
Yeah.
so I always tell people, hey, whatever amount of money you made last year as a total, your main job, maybe you have a side job or one of those websites where you share pictures of yourself. I'm not judging, I'm just saying,
Yeah.
whatever you're doing and spending time on to make money, you're spending that resource. So what is the return on it? Hey, I made $100,000 last year. I made $50,000 last year. Whatever that number is. Now you need to divide it by 2,000. Because if you were an average person, you'd work 40 hours a week, 50 weeks a year. You'd take a 2-week vacation, right? It's kind of your typical 9 to 5 schedule. You'd work 2,000 hours a year. So if you made 50 grand last year, your time's worth $25 an hour, Andy. And I don't know you. I'm just projecting this for the listener to
Hmm.
understand the math
Yeah.
here.
Yeah. Yeah.
But but here's what's scary. If I put on a black cloak and I knocked on the door and I said, "Hey, congratulations, you didn't know this, but my name's actually Death. You have 24 hours left to live. I'm also your boss. Here's 25 bucks. I need you to come with me for an hour." What kind of response are you going to give me at that point?
Hmm. Wow. Yeah. Yeah. Wow.
Isn't that scary to think about?
Yeah, it is. It is. It is.
You don't want to exchange your 1 hour for that amount of money because you start to recognize
No.
my time is very valuable. Like I could go
Yeah.
and spend this with someone I love. I could go and see something. Like, how far can I drive and can I get to the beach and see a sunset before my time is up,
Mhm.
right? Like there's
Yeah.
things, experiences that you want.
Yeah.
However, we can all agree that we still recognize money as a tool and a resource. And so at a certain point, we may go, you know what, though, Death, for that amount of money, you can have me for an hour because I'll use that money as a tool or a resource to help the people I love, to provide for the things that I care about in my life now. And that's where the
Ooh.
exchange starts to happen.
Yeah. Yeah.
So you have to start acting like your time is the thing that's generating your amount of money and your income in your life. Where are you spending your time? What's the return on that investment? Because that is the one resource you cannot get more of, and you're not promised any certain amount of. Like, we don't know. Like, we're blessed to wake up today, but we might not wake up tomorrow. Knock on wood. I pray everyone here wakes up tomorrow, but I'm just saying we don't know. So how come you're still investing this time as if you have an unlimited amount, or exchanging it for such a low amount of value when you're worth so much more?
Hmm. Yeah. Ooh, that's awesome. That's an
Thank you.
eye opener. Yeah, and that's really worth a lot. That's worth a whole lot. It has me thinking about so many dynamics in terms of career, and I usually try my best to stay away from spend and time being in the same line as a sentence. I try to tell myself invest time. Don't spend it, Andy. Invest, because it is so valuable that every time you do something, you need something out of that time. So it's more like an investment. So I appreciate that. Thank you for opening up in such a great manner and sharing that valuable tool with us. We have been listening to Drewbie Wilson, the episode entitled Crushing the Day Before It Crushes You. We'll go for a quick commercial break from our friends at findradioguest.com. They have helped me a lot in my publication and my profile being there online. They've given me bumps, even at times when I didn't meet up my monthly payments. But at the end of the day, it's all good. And we thank them for supporting our program and so many others, writers, coaches, artists, people who are in the front line and need their profile to be promoted online. Check this out. FindRadioGuest.com, the place to click to find guests to interview for free. And if you're a radio show booker, podcaster, talk show host, or television producer, then this is the place to get podcasts and radio interviews or promote your books and products as a guest expert sponsor. FindRadioGuest.com. Check it out. Yeah, thank you, our friends at FindRadioGuest.com, for your continued commitment and support in raising a sense of awareness of our profiles out there in the field of social media. We are live in the breakout room, crushing the day before it crushes us with our man of the moment, Drewbie Wilson. And we have been having an amazing time. Thank you for staying with us right here in the breakout room. Drewbie, what does the future look like for you with regards to your goals? I know you're looking at another book to come, it's the fifth one. But besides that, in terms of personal accomplishment and achievements, is there anything else on the bucket list or on the drawing board for you?
You know, Andy, one of the craziest experiences happened just this past weekend. My wife and I, we were sitting down at the beach with our son, letting him play in the water as we had our toes in the sand and embraced the warm sunshine. And have you ever had that moment where it just is like extra
Yeah.
warm and the glow is there, and we just looked at each other and we thought, we've done it. We are successful.
Mm, yeah.
And it was such a surreal moment because, 6 months ago, in December of 23, I walked away from a business I had been a part of for over 5 years, or just
Mhm.
about 5 years. I was making a multiple six-figure salary. I had, for all intents and purposes, I had the life that I had dreamed of, and it wasn't fulfilling. It wasn't like,
Yeah.
it didn't bring me the joy that I thought it would. And so my wife and I, we made the decision to sell our home in Texas, move into a 42-foot fifth wheel RV so that me and her and our son can travel the country and enjoy the beautiful like sights and sounds that this country has to offer. And our business is growing. We have our call the damn leads. We work with entrepreneurs and business owners, and we sell cool keychains and wristbands and everything. And it's just a fun reminder to do the work. But our big vision is this: I want to keep living the way that we're living because life is good. We built
Mm-hmm.
a life by design because we're very intentional with our time. We know, hey, we need to do X, Y, and Z. And in doing that consistently, it's going to provide the opportunity where we get to live in a van down by the river. Where at one point that used to be a joke on, SNL about what would happen if you didn't do the work. And it's true. If you don't do the work, you could end up in a van down by the river. But if you do the work and you call the damn leads and you crush the day, you might end up in a van down by the river by choice, and you might wake up by an ocean or in a beautiful town. And that's what my family is experiencing right now. So my big mission is to just keep living and showing up every day the way that I have been, because it's continuing to provide an amazing life, and then learning a little bit every day. So if I just learn one new thing and I learn it in a way that allows me to go and share it with someone in my community or someone that's trusted me as an example of leadership and what their life could be if they do the work and trust the process, I'll never run out of things, because when you pour into the cups of others, you're just making room for people to pour into your cup. And it's like a waterfall effect. It just never stops. And so that to me is like, hey, just keep doing what you're doing and trust the process, because God's got a plan and everything's working out exactly as it's supposed to. And I just got to keep telling those stories and sharing what's worked and not worked. Because again, not everything in my life has been perfect. There's been a lot of lessons and peaks and valleys, which you had mentioned a couple of books. If anyone has been on a journey, Peaks and Valleys by Spencer Johnson, that is an amazing book and has been a great representation of what it's like, because you get to the top of one mountain and that's an amazing view and that's such a like an accomplishment. But guess what? Limited resources. Air is thin up
Mm,
there. You can't stay there for very long. So you have to come
yeah.
down from that peak in order to reach the next peak. And that's the
Mm-hmm.
thing I think a lot of people get scared of, is they're afraid to even go for the first peak, let alone realizing it's going to have to come down and take the next one and ride the roller coaster. So if I can give anyone any insight, it's literally just trust the process, take your permission slip and go do the thing that you want to do, because you have no idea what life has in store for you once you get out of your own way.
Yeah. And that sounds like a technique. That sounds like a mindset. That sounds like a lifestyle. Appreciate that, Drewbie. I want to share this with us, and I want you to tell us, what are people supposed to get out of this publication when they see it?
Call the damn leads. So that is my mantra for business. It is the one thing that it's allowed me to separate myself when it comes to sales, marketing, branding, entrepreneurship. A lot of people are trying to hide behind AI and websites and all of these things, but the most important thing you can do to build a relationship is to have a real conversation with someone. And these days, in 2024, when technology is rampant, the best thing you can do is pick up the phone and call someone. Call the damn leads. And maybe it's a business thing, maybe it's a personal thing. A lot of
Yeah.
people have relationships in their life that they'd like to pursue, and they're not calling that person. They're sending them a text or they're sending them an email instead of picking up the phone and calling. And I promise you, if you call and you let them hear your voice and the passion and the emotion behind what you're trying to do or accomplish with them together, it makes a whole new level of exchange. And that's where I'm trying to help people find the balance, because we're human. Not
Mm-hmm.
everybody wants to get on the phone. Some people like to communicate through social media or text messages or emails, and that's fine. There are ways to still maintain a quality relationship, build on that communication, and that's what this book is all about, is how you can revolutionize that follow-up and communication in today's technological world, as a sales professional and an entrepreneur.
Yeah. Wonderful. Thank you for sharing. What would you say to the leaders of the world today? And the reason why, you know, in our podcast, we try to stay away from politics and discussing stuff like the socio-economic status of people and that kind of thing, it tends to get touchy, it tends to get real personal. But look, at the end of the day, what we have before us are some serious challenges happening on this planet, man. And if you had a message to send to the leaders of the world all over the globe about the mindset with regards to being a servant rather than being a master, what would you say to them?
Give me a second because I want to do this in a very
Take your time, buddy.
yeah, I want to do it the right way because you're right. It's so easy to again immediately react and have like that off the cuff answer, which in some cases is your true honest heart's feeling about things.
Mm-hmm.
And
Mm-hmm.
also your what's good for you is not always good for me, and what's good for me is not always good for you.
Yeah.
And I think that's the hardest part for anyone in a position of leadership is finding that balance of what's good for me, what's good for you, and where we can meet to where it's not an immediate turnoff. And I
Mm-hmm.
don't think there's a perfect answer for that. I don't think there's any magical formula in which we can just sit down and say, all right, Andy, here's the kind of life you want. Here's the kind of life I want. This is what it's going to be. Thank you. Shake hands and go on about your day. It's never going to work that way. There's
Yeah.
always going to be a nuance and some variable. That's the beautiful thing about life, right? The snowflake effect is like, sure, we're all very similar. We all have heads. We all have eyebrows. Not all have eyebrows, but you know what I mean? Like, we're all pretty similar. And then you start to
Mm-hmm.
get into the variances and the skin colors and all the different things that we could go down that rabbit hole of. But the point is, again, what's good for me isn't always good for you. And what's good for you isn't always good for me. So if I had any one message to share, it's care more about people and less about yourself.
I love it. And that is so profound. We thank you for that, Drewbie. We appreciate that and we appreciate you. I want to share something with you that when I looked at your profile, this really took me back because this may have been the beginning of that tremendous change for you. And before I put it up, I want to thank you for being as open and vulnerable as you have been. And sometimes I wait till it's almost the end of the episode to go back to the beginning, so to speak. So, when you see this particular image I'm about to share, what are the emotions that floods through your mind? And how thankful and grateful are you that you decided you needed to do something about it?
Mm. Yeah. Yeah, so that picture on the left, that is me at about 18 years old, maybe 19 years old. I probably weighed 315 pounds, I'd guess.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Uh-huh. Very unhappy, not confident, unfulfilled, just kind of making my way through life. And that gentleman you see on the right, that handsome fellow with the beard that I never thought I'd be able to grow, that's me at 35 years old, making $500,000+ a year, having all the toys, all the materials, everything that I thought I wanted in life. And I did. And I earned it and I worked really hard to get it. And the one thing that I will remind myself all the time consistently is you have to trust the process because
Mm.
there is a blueprint, there is a process, right? They say the blueprint to success. Well, guess what? It exists, and the
Mm-hmm.
blueprint is to trust the process. You have to do the
Yeah.
work, and that's
Yeah.
the thing that most people don't do consistently or do long enough to get the result because we live in a instant gratification world. I want it now. I want it now. I want it now. I want to open my phone and go to Google and I want the information now, and I want to go to Amazon and I want it tomorrow morning, or actually I want it within 2 hours. I want it delivered by a drone because I don't want to wait. And the one thing that we cannot rush is time because
Hmm.
60 minutes is 60 minutes no matter how you slice it up.
Yeah. Yeah.
Now, what's
Wow.
crazy is perspective. Because if you did a 60-minute plank, life would suck because the only thing you're focused on is all the hurt and feeling in your abs. But 60 minutes with a loved one goes in a snap
Hmm.
because of
Yeah.
perspective. And
Yeah.
that's success in a nutshell. Success is your perspective. My version is going to be a little different than yours, Andy. And if you asked our parents, their version of what we would be successful as is really different than where we are right now. But where you spend your time, that one resource, that investment, that's going to lead you to the results of your life. But you have to trust the process and let that investment compound over time.
Yeah. Wonderful. Thank you for sharing. I've often spoke to people and I would say things like the success of a Tiger Woods is not the same success of a Warren Buffett or the success of one of the greatest, probably the greatest ever in terms of sport being Michael Jordan was not the same success of a Kobe Bryant. And they would try to get their heads around it. And I'm alluding to what you just said. And I say to them, look, here's the thing. Every person has their own measure of success based on how they see themselves being successful. So, yes, these gentlemen that I just mentioned, they have all been tremendously successful. But here's the thing, they would all tell you a story about themselves that makes their success unusual, unique, and original only to them. And so, what I tell people is you have to use your strength, the thing that defines you the most, the thing that excels you the most and exposes you the most. That's your strength. Use it. And use it for what? To serve others. As you say, when you pour into the cup of people, they're going to find a way to pour back into you. We just have about 3 minutes left to go. And I'm going to change the perspective a bit and we're going to look at the professional aspect of sales for a moment. What's your advice for someone struggling to stay motivated in the role of sales? What would you tell them that some things they need to do or change to keep that motivation up despite the many no's that they may hear?
They're not going to like it, but they need to show up and serve instead of stop trying to sell. Because when you're focused on the sale, you're not focused on serving the individual. And at the end of the day, they don't care how much you know until they know how much you care. So if you want to sell more people, start caring about them first, and
Yeah.
they'll happily give you their money to solve the problem that they have because they will know you, they will like you, and they will trust you enough to believe and have faith that you can get them to the promised land. So if you want to
Wow.
help people, serve them. Serve them
Yeah.
first.
Yeah. Wonderful. Thank you. So we're going to put up some information there on the screen, but I want you to tell them how is the most effective way that they can get you and get copies of your books.
Yeah, thank you, Andy. First and foremost, if anyone here listening got value out of this episode, the thing that I'd ask before they even come and research me is please go and share this specific episode on social media. Because if you were here and you got something out of it, it means it's valuable to you. And if you share it, your word will mean so much more than what I have to say because it's other people vouching for it that makes a difference. And Andy, you've put a ton of time and energy to putting this together. So I want whoever's here that got value out of it to share it with others first and then come and find me afterwards. Because if you've shared it first, you've done the part that I ask. And then if you come and send me a message and say, hey, I shared that episode that you had with Andy because I really, really liked it, send me a message on callthedamnleads.com. Find me on social media. Andy put all my links in there because he's a gem of a human. Share this episode and then come and send me the message that said you shared it. If you do that, I will literally jump on a call with you. I'll send you something, whatever I can do to bring value to your life because you made an investment of time. And if I can return on that investment, I will be happy to do that because it means the world that you would spend your time with us today. So share this episode. Go to callthedamnleads.com. Google us. We're on every social media platform ever, I think. And then come and reach out. And we'd be happy to help you on whatever you are in your journey, wherever you are. If you have a roadblock, let's build a ramp and launch over that thing.
Yeah, wonderful. As you said the last part there, it reminds me of something one of my mentors said. Sean Smith. I think you're probably familiar with the name. He works with Lisa Nichols a lot, and
Mm.
he told us in a session, so many people walk around waiting for someone to build bridges over the canyons of their lives. But what they don't realize is that hidden within them is the ability to grow wings and soar over the canyons of their lives. So instead of depending on somebody to do something for you, why not try and do it yourself? Instead of being a consumer, be a creator. That's the message. That's the message. That's the message. We have been in the presence of this amazing entrepreneur, author, sales professional, Drewbie Wilson, the episode entitled Crushing the Day Before It Crushes You. We thank you for your commitment and your continued support to this podcast and the other podcasts that we have on Andy's personal development. Remember our three watchwords: health, happiness, and prosperity. As I go, remember my famous quote: always find a way to give a return on the investment that the Creator made by putting you here on planet Earth. Until next time, this is Andy together with my guest, Drewbie Wilson, saying so long, Godspeed, God bless, Shalom, Namaste. Bye for now, guys. Stay blessed.